Okay, hello, happy Wednesday, and welcome to the writing workshop. My name is Dr. Boyce, and I want to thank you all for showing up today. You know, the writing hub is a place for students to get support in their writing. You can always visit our website to schedule a one-on-one session to get feedback on your writing and your upcoming papers that are due for your courses. So today, I want to welcome one of my friends, my sorority sisters, my professional mentors, somebody that I just look up to, aspire to be like, and love from a deep, long place. Qiara Suggs is here to give you all the 411 on developing a professional presence. And so I'm going to let her introduce herself, tell you about the work that she does. I apologize that I'm not on video for y'all to see my lovely face today, but it is not looking lovely. So come back next week for that. All right. And I'm gonna let Qiara take it away.
Thank you, Steph. I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Qiara Suggs. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. One thing that's most important is I love interaction. So the more we interact, the greater benefit I think we will mutually have. I also just want to be transparent and let you guys know I'm working from home today, and I never work from home. I have 2 little boys. I've blurred out my background, and so I hope they don't pop their little heads in, but if they do, just know that I am a family person and things happen. So I apologize in advance if I have any interruptions.
No worries.
But I'm excited to be here today. I have to tell you, I love interacting with people. I'm an HR person, so you know that whole cliche, love working with people. I am that, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm an HR director for Memorial Hermann Health System. I live here in Houston, Texas, and our health system is the second largest in the Southeast area. I graduated from U of H. Go Cougs. Anybody been watching the basketball games? Made it to the Final Four. So yes.
Go Cougs.
Yes. So I got my undergrad degree in business management and marketing. And then I decided to pursue my master's in business administration about 6 months after graduating with my undergrad degree from Texas Women's University. So I have about almost 20 years of HR experience, with the core of my experience being in healthcare. What you'll learn from me is that HR is transferable, and I'm a firm believer that most skill sets are transferable in any industry. So I'm looking forward to talking to you guys today about developing a professional presence. I always like to start off my sessions with some ground rules, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit as I go through just some basic fundamental things that'll really help us set the foundation for the next 30 minutes or so. So just a couple things, and I don't know if you guys are on your cell phone or on your computer, but I really just want to make sure that I have your undivided attention. So if you're checking your emails or whatever the case is, please, let's just work together to make sure that we get the best out of this session. I think many of you guys work in a virtual setting, so feel free, take yourself off of mute if you feel like you just want to stop the conversation at any point in time, or you can just shoot a message in chat and I'll try to check it periodically. If you want to see the participants, which I have it down, I really want to see all the folks that come in, and I understand that some folks are going to be coming in just throughout the session. The last thing, just to kind of reiterate, help me out. Let's ask questions. I may say some things that you may not agree with, so I appreciate you guys challenging me and really just having some valuable dialogue as we talk about what professional presence is. I'll tell you what you'll notice throughout the session is I'm probably going to interchange executive presence and professional presence, because I think regardless of where you are in your career, they both essentially mean the same thing. So you don't necessarily have to ask to come off of mute. I'm not the host, but if you're having a hard time coming off of mute and you want to talk, please just put something in the chat, or you can just click the unmute me button. And again, at any point in time when you feel comfortable with just plugging into the conversation, please feel free to do so. All right. Now I have to start off with this. Now, Stephanie didn't know that I was going to talk about this, but I don't know if you guys had a chance to see the phenomenal work that Stephanie is just creating across the community. But when
Shucks, Qiara, shucks.
but look, I have to acknowledge just amazing women in our community, amazing leaders. I do believe that Stephanie's a pillar in our society, and she's truly helping to push our culture forward. I don't know if you've had a chance to see this episode with The Real, but she knows her stuff. She's highly educated. She's passionate about the work, and I really just admire what she's doing. So, when I think about professional presence, it's not just about being who you are at work. It's beyond that. It's who you are authentically. And I see Stephanie, she's not just an educator, she's a mom, she's a wife, she's a friend, she's a sister, but more importantly, I see her as a boss. And Stephanie, I just want to just share that I admire you for the work that you're doing and the intent that you are bringing forward to ensure that there's equitable change across all communities. So congratulations on the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Qiara. I appreciate that.
So, all right. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to show up. And I say show up in quotes because I think showing up is not just about physically showing up. It's about how you behave in front of people. It's how you make impressions, how you communicate, your body language, how you present yourself, how you articulate yourself. And this is really about, everything about you, who you represent as a person. So if you think about people that you'd classify as professional or classy or sharp or even admirable, I'd like for you guys to either come off of mute or just share with me in chat in the chat. What do those people have that others don't? So feel free to come off of mute if you feel comfortable, but talk to me about, again, so those folks that you're like, oh my gosh, like I think about Michelle Obama. Oh my gosh, she is classy. She represents herself, but talk to me about what you think she has that other people don't. Sheila or Brittany?
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning. Thank
morning.
you for coming today. We really appreciate it and taking that time out, your patience. So thank you so much. Once again, I'm Sheila Lucas. I'm a senior at Paul Grant College. I pray that I graduate in May.
You will.
Yes, I don't know because I'm having a problem in English. I think I'm the only one that calls out the voice all the time. I'm struggling. I am struggling in this class.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so thankful I had to work my work schedule around to make sure I can get on here to listen to what you all are constantly telling us and how to gravitate all of this into my thinking, into doing my work.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's still not processing properly. I'm not sure what it is. But I didn't mean to get off on the subject.
But that's important.
Thank you. But for someone that is very important, definitely Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
She has done an excellent job. And it doesn't matter about the age of the person. You have so many people that are much younger than her that are so well spoken, so intelligent about what they say, what they do, how they say it. And I'm a very big listener. I listen to how people say, don't use the words that makes me mad. So I really try to slow down, think about what I'm saying before I say it. But I also think Angela Bassett is a great person. Paulette Washington. And we don't see too much of Paulette. She's really behind the scenes, the things that she do. And most people don't know who Paulette is. That's Denzel Washington's wife. She does a lot of work in the community. So those two ladies definitely stand out for me as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. So a couple of things that you pointed out, Sheila, is when we talk about professional presence, everything that's happening around us actually impacts how we show up in the world, right? Whether it's, in a meeting or in class or online, whatever that is, that could potentially impact you. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But more importantly, when I heard you talk about the individuals that you just described, I heard you say that they were engaged in the community, and sometimes it's it's folks that aren't necessarily highly publicized on the internet, right? There are folks that are heroes and professionals that, that are kind of behind the scenes. And so I appreciate you sharing that. Brittany, anything that you have?
Qiara, the one that I had was competent. When I think about people with a professional presence, I think about people that are competent and informed, because I've heard people that speak well, but what they're saying is empty or, or lacking. And so I think I'm always mindful about competence in the professional presence.
Yes, Stephanie, you're absolutely right. I will tell you, I've worked with people before who come to work, they wear their suit and tie and, they show up, but they lack competence. And so, it's hard to take them serious, or you get distracted because they dress up as the part, but they don't have the knowledge, or they at least are, maybe they're unprepared, right? And so again, professional presence is about balancing all of that. So it's about being authentic, balancing how to be mindful of how you behave, how you come across in a professional setting. Or maybe it's not necessarily a professional setting. We're going to talk a little bit about social media, right? And so everything that you do, believe it or not, there are people that are watching you or admiring you. I think about my children and things that I say at home. My husband and I are very conscious of what we say at home. And while it's not necessarily a professional presence, our influence impacts them and how they are developing and things that they pick up on. So as an HR professional, I will tell you that we look at certain characteristics when we identify people to be a part of our team. So we talk about value add, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, but there are some things that are innate, right? So things that are foundational in your upbringing, being kind, being just nice to people, being respectful. And there's some things that you just can't teach. What we can teach is people how to do a job. And I know that you guys are working professionals, but I would rather hire somebody who is nice and kind, who has the ability to learn to do a job, as opposed to somebody who's excellent at their job, but they're completely disrespectful. Right. And so those are some things that you have to think about. Specifically, when we ask questions that allow people to demonstrate professionalism. Tell us about a time when you dealt with a difficult situation. How did you show up? What was your interaction? What did you say? Right. And so we want people to define how they truly show up outside of their clothing. I will tell you that at my job, our selection process is very vigorous. So not only as an HR professional, we have a talent acquisition team that interviews, but we also tell our leaders, you need to interview and ask the right questions beyond skill set. And then we say, send those folks to a peer panel interview. And we want you to have a different set of eyes. So when that person shows up, make them comfortable. And let's see how they really show up, right? And so we even have, for example, our executive assistants, when there's folks that come in to meet with our executives, we let the candidates sit in the open setting for a little bit, and they'll say, hey, tell me how that person responds. When they walk in, tell us a little bit about their behavior. So again, believe it or not, there are folks that are watching you at all times. And so that's something that we have to continue to think about. And again, like I said, so while we look for the soft skills, it is important to have the skill set, of a job if you can bring it to the table. Both are important. One doesn't necessarily outweigh the other, but I will tell you, I can only speak specifically from an HR lens, I would prefer to have somebody with the soft skills and someone who can be taught over time. But my hope is that today you'll appreciate perspective from me and insight. I'm only speaking from one perspective, and there may be others who just have a different perspective, but I do want you guys to hopefully take away some nuggets from this conversation. So quick agenda, we're going to talk about the power of professional presence a little bit more. I'm going to hit on professional attire, virtual presence. I'm going to slide in a little bit about timeliness and what that looks like and why it's important. And then we'll close with talking about how to demonstrate good leadership skills. My hope is that I'll leave a little bit of time available for Q&A. All right, so I want to ask you guys just real quick, you're welcome to type it in the chat, but aside from your birth name, type in a phrase or a word that you would use to describe yourself. Anything, like if someone were to say, Stephanie, or I think it's Brittany that's on here, well, how would you describe yourself? Anyone have? Let's see, check in the chat. Very outspoken. Mm-hmm. All right, well, I'm going to participate a little bit while you guys think, but it took me a little bit to think through this because depending on the day, I may describe myself one way or another, but when I think about kind of a phrase or a mantra that I've identified for myself, similar to how I described Stephanie earlier, I love the acronym BOSS. And I've come up with this phrase and kind of a mantra to help me think through, like, what does that mean for me? And it's, when I think about boss, it's not title. Yeah, I'm a director, but guess what? That doesn't define who I am. That just, it's my experience and my hard work that's gotten me here, but I don't necessarily want to be known as Qiara, the director, right? My affirmation using the acronym BOSS is, I'm boldly approaching life. And what I mean by boldly approaching life is sometimes you have to be adventurous. You have to be willing to take risk. You have to, in this world of diversity and inclusion, you have to be willing to say things that people may not necessarily want to hear, right? And in my job right now, we're trying to figure out everything equity, diversity, and inclusion. When I think about my purpose, I've become that person who said, no, that's not right. Or we need to think about this differently because we haven't always been inclusive. So I'm boldly approaching life. And then when I think about, I'm approaching life in an optimistic manner and being intentional, right? And so, Sheila, you talked a little bit about some of your struggles, and I will share with you, everybody has struggles, right? Every day I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I a good mom? Am I a good wife? Like, what am I doing? I'm trying to juggle all these things. There's not enough time. I thought I knew this, but I guess I don't, right? And so I'm trying to flip my mindset of how can I be more optimistic and pour into myself, right? If someone were to come to me and say, Qiara, I'm struggling with this, whether it's my career or at home, guess what? I'm going to tell them to be optimistic. Well, if I tell them to be optimistic, I need to do it myself. So I'm approaching life in an optimistic manner. And then when I talk about the S, so I'm investing in myself with self-love, right? And so for every time I say I can't, I need to say, Qiara, but what can you do? What do you bring to the table, right? And so I think about self-love. And then lastly, when I think about my purpose, so the last S is having a servant mindset. So, it's about being selfless, right? I want to make sure that I am contributing back to society in a way where I'm making the world a better place. I'm building, a future for my children, right? And so boss is embedded in my affirmation. And too often I've learned that if I don't pour into myself, I lose my sense of purpose. And also if I'm self-serving, then nothing really good comes out of my life. And, it's no point, right? And I'm a Christian. So I make sure that I am doing the will of God and what I believe is meant for me. And most importantly, I never want to fit into a crowd. So just to reiterate, I want to be known for being bold with a positive mindset. And that's really just a glimpse of who I am. So I would like to challenge you guys as you think about, your professional presence, think about what makes sense. When somebody says, hey, just tell me a little bit about yourself. Think about an elevator, well, I call it like an elevator speech, right? A 30-second elevator speech to continue to help you define who you are as a person. All right, so we talked a little bit about this, so I'm going to move forward a little bit. And Brittany, hopefully, and Steph, hopefully you can kind of help with this. But, you know, what I heard some of you guys say when you thought about good leadership and folks that stood out, you know, here are some of the characteristics that really come to mind for me. And you'll think about, you know, when you think about, maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's somebody who, maybe it's a professor, somebody who you interact with on a daily basis. I think about folks who've led the way. So Martin Luther King, he was a risk taker. You know, it took him to be a good communicator. He built unity, and his legacy lives on forever. And you can see how that's resurfacing today with some of the work that the community needs to continue to bring unity. When I think about Barack Obama, he was humble. He was relatable. You know, a lot of people said he has swagger. So I think about, he didn't just show up with the appropriate, you know, attire per se, but he very articulate, very optimistic, resilient, knocked down 10 times. Guess what? He got up 10 more times, right? And so, you know, think about those folks that motivate you. And I would just challenge you to pull little nuggets from them and figure out, like, you know, I like that about that person. What can I do to elevate my presence? How can I continue to build myself as, you know, a leader, whether I'm a formal leader or not? The last one, I think about Kobe Bryant, right? You know, rest in peace. He was accountable. If you guys read stories about him, he was, you know, shooting at the gym all hours of the night until he perfected things, right? He was resilient. He was a learner. He was adaptable. So, you know, there's tons of leaders in our history that have formally been noted, or even those who aren't necessarily formally written, as one of our classmates mentioned a little bit earlier. But think about how you want to leave a lasting impression when you walk in the room, when you leave out the room, and how you're articulating yourself when you're communicating with people. Okay, before I move forward, are there any questions that you guys have?
I'm sorry, I had to jump off, so I missed the last part of what you said. But I did catch the first part when you were talking. With me, and the reason why I say I'm a very outspoken person, because I'm in commercial real estate, and I've been doing this now for 16 years. And I have dealt so much in my field, what we call the good old boys. And I know you deal a lot with that in your profession because you're the boss. And sometimes people don't like to take orders from you. I know that. And sometimes some people don't like to take orders from me. And so I have to get a little stern with people. And I have to get a little quite stern with them.
Yeah.
So I run into this, and I still try to keep it soft. But sometimes I have to step out of myself to let them know I am very serious about doing the work for my client.
Yeah.
Sheila said, don't play with me. Don't play with me.
Yes.
You know, look, Sheila, we need a whole nother hour to talk about this, but I will tell you that, you know, one thing that I've learned throughout my career journey is, you know, sometimes to get things done, you have to speak people's language, right? And so you can't necessarily approach people the same way, or sometimes you have to use folks that may have a stronger influence with that individual to get things done, right? So it's kind of like, you can say one thing and give a message and people will receive you one way. The next person will come back and say the same exact thing. And then they're like, that's brilliant. Oh, you know, it happens in meetings all the time with me where I'm like, I just said that. Well, you know what? How is it that you received it better from this person than me, right? And so, you know, we can talk about diversity, inclusion, equity, bias, all those different things. I'm very passionate about that as well. But I hear you. I think there are some folks that will, you know, receive you a certain way because of who you are. I do think as women, We have different struggles. As African Americans, we have different struggles that others may not relate to. And then depending on, if you're in the circle with people, it determines how people receive you, right? And so I digress, but I would love to continue that conversation because that's important, right? Because that can essentially play into like, what is it about me? Why am I unable to move things forward, with this individual?
Well, Qiara, can I say this to your point about being able to maintain that professional presence, even when you hit a wall of resistance like that with some people? Of course, I do work on DEI as well. And what I find sometimes is that your ability to not take it personal will help you to maintain your professional presence. Because I already know that there's some people that have preconceived ideas about me because I'm a Black woman, because I have natural hair. Like I come in looking locked, or I come in wearing something that they feel like makes me look younger, or like whatever it is, their perceptions of me will cause them to, one, maybe question me more than they would a man in my position or somebody older than me or whatever. And so I think for me, it's about, I don't take it personal. And sometimes when I have an opportunity to make it a teachable moment, I turn it back on its head by asking them a clarifying question that makes them have to analyze. Now, why was I, being that way with her? Like, why? And then, so for me, I think just not taking it personal allows me to remain professional in leadership positions, because it's like, at the end of the day, I have the positional power. So what I say is going to go anyway. So now it's just about us being able to reconcile, have a relationship flow, have unity and peace in the workplace. But I don't take it personally. You probably never encountered a woman like me in such a position. And so it's nice to meet you.
Yep. Yeah, we also have this, I teach this class called Crucial Conversations. And to Stephanie's point, a lot of times, there's a way that you can approach somebody to kind of hit the issue head on without taking it personal. Sometimes it's not even about you. It could be about something else. And so, again, I'm happy to come back and talk about some more topics. But yes, I think all of that plays into professional presence.
I would definitely like to know about that class, Crucial
Conversations. It's one of my favorite courses. I'll round with Stephanie afterwards, and I'll send you guys some information on that. Depending on, Steph, we can talk about this later, but depending on like the next class size, if it's something where I can kind of give a quick and dirty on Crucial Conversations, I'm happy to do that as well. Okay.
Yep, just come on back.
Yep. Okay. All right. So just real quick, has anyone heard the term gravitas? Gravitas. It represents like the presence or the energy that you bring into a room. It's how you carry on conversations. I mean, it could be having the gift of gab, but this is, this all plays into your presence and what you bring in. So what you'll see here at the top left, it says, within the first 7 seconds of meeting people immediately have an impression on you, right? And so whether it's what comes out of your mouth, what you're wearing for the day, the reputation that you bring, whatever it is, first 7 seconds, someone's going to make an impression about you. And so that's why your appearance matters. All the things that we talked about a little bit earlier, your communication, whether or not you know how to hold a conversation with any and everybody. And also to Stephanie's point a little bit earlier, kind of removing yourself from the situation and not allowing people to get under your skin and continue to maintain your professionalism. Think about it. And I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I'm sure you guys saw the Sharon Osbourne and I just lost what's the lady's name? Cheryl Underwood. My goodness. Did she maintain her professionalism when she was tested, right? And so that's professional presence, right? She could have easily, Sharon's kind of taunting her, tell me why it is. Tell me why you think I'm racist, right? And so she kept a smile on her face and she said, I'll tell you later. We'll be right back, right? But even when they came back, you could tell that she never got under Cheryl's skin. And if she did, Cheryl kept her composure, right? Guess who's apologizing? It's not Cheryl, right? Right. And so now this reputation that comes with Sharon, I'm like, wow, this lady has some anger problems, and that's always going to carry, right? So this bottom quote at the
But don't
right.
we have to be more, Kiera? Don't we have to be even more? Like, we don't get a chance to get a one strike. I went off in the meeting and went off on somebody and went off on a tangent, because now we're labeled black woman is
The angry Black
angry.
woman. Yep.
Are you on your cycle? Like, it's all kind of labels. And then it's like, but for other people, I feel like we have to be even extra careful.
But why?
You know,
Tell me, why do we always have to be the nice person? Why
I'm gonna let
can't we?
Kiera take that one. I'm gonna fall back
yeah,
off
look,
that
I
one.
would just look, there's no perfect answer, Sheila. And I will tell you that it is unfair. It's unfair that, guess what? You know, I'm dealing with something right now in my organization where we talk about talent. And when we talk about talent, there's some folks that are automatically given the best intentions. They may not have 100% of the job, but you know what? They have the potential. Then I see others that may look like me, and they're like, that person needs a little bit more time in their role. They need to take a different journey, right? And so it's not just, you know, we do have to take the nice thing, but there are some assumptions, unfortunately, that come with who we are as a culture. And it's bias. It's bias that is ingrained in history that we have to continue to challenge and speak up. It is unfair. I don't know the perfect answer to that, but I agree with you. Like, you know, we do have to show up differently. Otherwise, we are going to carry that reputation of being the angry Black woman, right? It's kind of like, you know, there's some people that show up to work with pink highlights in their hair. And then Stephanie just used her example. She has, you know, dreads that are beautifully made, right? But guess what? Who they're going to look at differently. It's not the pink highlights. They're going to say, oh my God, girl, that's cute. But for us, you know, it doesn't necessarily follow white America. And so we're constantly being challenged, and we're constantly having to elevate our presence. So anyway, so just a couple things, and I want to go through this. If there's nothing else that you take away from this, I will tell you that, you know, there's inherent power in professional presence. You know, it empowers us to command respect in any situation. And really, it's important that we're not superficial, right? And so when we talk about professional presence, it includes the ability to project confidence. So kind of back to what you were talking about, Sheila, you know, despite the challenges that we're dealing with, we still have to project confidence. We have to maintain our composure. We've got to find a way to engage in others to inspire them to act. And these are important if you want to be seen, right, whether it's formal or an informal leader, if you want to be considered for a job, for a promotion, if you want to be given greater levels of responsibility. And again, if you want to motivate others to act. A few traits that involve professional presence. So when we talk about composure, it's controlling your emotions. So back to what we were talking about, right? And so, you know, just more of a rhetorical question. Has anyone ever interacted with you and then you're like, oh my gosh, this person got the best of me? Like, I can't believe I let this person get under my skin. You know, it takes time. It takes a skill to, you know, to hold back kind of this natural reaction that you may have, right? And some may say, oh man, that person's putting on a front. It's not about putting on a front, but it's, you know, how do I make sure that I remain authentic and also stand up for myself, but also not let anyone take me there, because I control my emotions. No one else controls my emotions, so I control how I react. The ability to maintain composure under pressure is crucial. It's required. You have to be aware of your surroundings. You've got to be mindful of the context of conversations. Again, remember, people are always watching your reactions. They're looking for your body language. So whether you're online or face-to-face, if somebody says something and you're like, you know, they're watching you at all times. So you have to be aware. If you struggle with this, it may be important to be more intentional. So you have to know your trigger points, right? So if you know there's trigger words or certain things that you're going to take you there, sometimes you may have to, maybe it's taking deep breaths. Maybe it's like, okay, you know, Qiara, don't let them take you there. You know, maybe it's approaching it with curiosity. Like, for example, somebody may give you some feedback that you don't agree with. Thank you for that feedback. Can you tell me a little bit more so that I can better understand your point of view? You know, it's stuff like that, right? So you're not agreeing with it. you're like, well, thank you for that. Tell me a little bit more about why you think X, Y, and Z.
Like, do you have some specific examples, like that I can understand? I think that's something I always want to know when somebody's confusing me. Like, oh, thank you for that feedback. That was random and totally subjective. Do you have any specific examples from my work in the past that you could share with
Yeah.
me that help me have a fuller understanding of your critique?
Yeah, and it also gives you an opportunity to clarify. Oh, you thought that I was upset with that? No, I was actually very engaged in the conversation. I was actually just asking more questions to better understand perspective or whatever it is, right? So, they open up the door when you ask for more feedback. They open up the door for you to correct or clarify intentions. So anyway, so when we talk about connection, it's the ability to engage or connect with various personalities. So I have an older brother, and I always tell him he's got the gift of gab. He can literally talk to any and everybody. I wish I had that. I don't. I'm trying to be intentional, but there are some folks that I struggle with talking to. There's other folks where I'm like, yes, let's go out and have a good time, right? Some of that just comes natural, but I will tell you, as you grow in your career, you are going to deal with people of all ages, races, opinions, sexes, biases, and you have to know how to engage with those individuals to be successful. Not necessarily, you don't have to like everybody, but guess what? You've got to find a way to respect people's opinions, presence, or be respectful. Let me just say that you have to find a way to be respectful, even when you may not respect the person. Charisma. So when we talk about charisma, it's the ability to draw people to you. So, it's kind of at the end of the day, oftentimes we want to move things forward and get things done, similar to the examples that were used a little bit earlier. So find a way to have some charisma so that you can move things forward in a way where your influence motivates folks to act. When we talk about communication, so, it kind of goes back to, we're all educated, right? You guys are pursuing a college degree. And so, utilize that. And so make sure that you are clearly communicating. You're concise, not just in the way that you communicate with people face to face, but in email. So I tell my employees all the time, when we send emails to our executive team, they read in sound bites. Don't send them a dissertation. Send them bullet points. Tell them exactly what needs to happen. Give them a high-level summary. And what are you asking them to do, right? And so you've got to find a way to communicate to people in ways that makes people want to move. Just the last 2 points that I just want to make, and this is really about first impressions. We talked a little bit about this, but you have to be aware of your appearance. Display good communication skills, both verbal, nonverbal. Remember that you never get a chance to make a first impression. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. So think about the first impression that you have made lately, right? Think about maybe it's a significant other, it's a friend. Think about the first impressions that you had, maybe your professors had, or folks where you were like, I can really get along with this person. Or maybe your first impression was like, I do not want to deal with this person. I'm going to hate this class, whatever it is. There's something about the person that has caused you to think that way. So in a professional setting, you want to think about that way as well. How are you presenting yourself? Lastly, self-promotion. So surround yourself with individuals who will uplift you. I talk about this all the time. Your circle is a reflection of you. I don't care what people say, but you could have one bad apple. Guess what? You're probably going to be sucked into that as well. So make sure that you are comfortable with purging your friends where it makes sense. Those people who don't have the same values as you, promote positivity within your circle, and find people that are can continue to support you and promote you to make you the best. And then honestly, if you keep these things in mind, and it's not an all-inclusive or exhaustive list, but these will absolutely position you for success. All right. So,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm done. I thought you were finishing when you said that.
Oh,
go ahead, professional attire.
Okay, yeah, you tell me when I have to stop, because I just have a couple more. So I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. So professional attire.
I'm not going to stop you because Sheila technically took up a couple of your minutes with her sharing, which is totally welcome and acceptable. So just go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to try to make it through. But I will tell you, look, do you guys think that attire matters? I think this is a given. Yes. So I want to just share with you a couple things. When you're thinking about showing up, make sure that you avoid some of the things that we listed here. So try not to make sure that you're showing up with clothes that aren't ironed, right? You want to make sure that you have appropriate attire that's professional. Maybe it's an interview, maybe it's something else where you're showing up and making sure that you are trying to make a first impression. I'm going to share this a little bit because I feel like people are like, what's the difference between business and casual, business casual, business professional? So business casual is, you don't have to wear a tie. You don't necessarily have to wear a suit. I will tell you, my work environment is business casual, but guess what? I'm one of the youngest leaders on my team. I'm an African-American woman. So when I think about how do I want to show up at work, I always have a jacket on. That's my preference. It just depends on what matters to you, right? When you think about business formal, so of course that's, wearing a tie, wearing a suit. My philosophy is to observe others that I admire in the workplace. And similar to what I shared with you guys earlier, pay attention to characteristics that are appealing to you. That's what I do. So specifically, I'm looking for, what does good leadership look like? What are they wearing? What can I do to make sure that I show up in that same way and bring a presence where people want to listen? I'll tell you that my mom always dressed me up in suits and dresses when I went to church. And so this translated to me dressing up always in my career. So that's easy for me. And I'll tell you, it was easier for me to put on a suit or a dress or like a nice pantsuit. But quite frankly, I struggled with going out with my girlfriends because I never had clothes to go out on the weekend, right? And so I always had like business clothes, but I never had like cute little clothes to go out for the weekend. So that's my struggle. I personally believe that you need to dress the part that you want, right? And so, maybe you are in a frontline staff position, but if you want to be a manager, dress up a little bit so that people can take you seriously. And recognize what the work environment attire is, but it's okay to make yourself stand out. I talked about being bold a little bit earlier. Being bold means not fitting in with the crowd. And so that's my whole thing. I want to make sure that I'm not fitting in with the crowd. This is lastly, and there's no guys on the call that I'm aware of, but guys, don't wear any rolled up sleeves, loose ties. I will tell you that capris, generally speaking, aren't considered professional. And so when you're going somewhere and you're wanting to leave a lasting impression, try not to wear capris. All right, so last couple slides, because I know we're running over. This is my thing. And Stephanie, I know that you've seen this before, but when I talk about showing up and being timely, this has... So Delta Sigma Theta has taught us this, and I live with this in my family. It's just my mantra. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late, and to be late is unacceptable. And so when you show up, make sure that you're early. That means you're on time, right? The last thing that I just want to share with you guys before we get to the good leadership skills is, believe it or not, people Google you. So whatever you are doing on social media, trust me, people are looking you up before they call you. Doesn't matter if you applied online, they're going to look your name up and try to see what's happening on social media. So if you never Googled yourself, Google yourself and see if there's something online that needs to be taken down. And then this is the last thing that I want to share with you guys, but there's several things that go into leadership skills. So to be clear, leaders aren't always those with formal titles. It's like saying all superheroes don't wear capes, right? And so here's some things that you might want to consider as you continue to pursue your dreams. Have a vision, know your craft. So school helps you get to the job. Your work ethic helps you get through the job. Beyond day one, clearly communicate your passion, figure out your purpose. Steph talked about competence, the manners. There's the innate skills that specifically kind of drive who you are as a person. Get involved outside of just work, get involved in the community, and really have some integrity. So this is my last slide. I just want to kind of challenge you guys and think about, is there more that you can do to enhance your professional image? Just learning from what we talked about today, or as you digest all the information that I just shared with you. I know we're running over, but if you have some time to just kind of share what can you do, or maybe any nuggets or takeaways that you have from today.
One thing that I'm working on doing after a year in COVID work from home mode is starting to, I used to iron all my clothes for the week on Sunday and hang them in the closet. So I knew based on the weather and based on what kind of meetings I had, like, okay, maybe I have something where I need to go in a full suit on Thursday. So got that out in my blouse and whatever, and like everything is ready to go for the week. But because of COVID, it's just kind of been like leggings and whatever. So I'm trying to get back now to a place in my mind where I at least from the waist up look decent and don't just like look like a bum all day. And it's taken just a year of being like, I'm more productive when I look better. So at least from the waist up, even with my leggings still, a blouse, and like do my hair, maybe a little powder, sometimes a lip. Like, come on, Steph, we can do better than this.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think you're right. Because honestly, whether you're working from home or whatever the case is, how you dress kind of dictates your energy. And so, I mean, just like today, I'll just share with you guys, I have on a suit jacket and, a shirt, but I have on some sweatpants at the bottom. So, I'm at home, right? But when I'm at work, I wear a suit or something that's a little bit above business casual, because I know that all eyes are on me. And as the HR leader, people are looking for me for one thing or the other. When I walk on the floor, they're like, oh my gosh, what is happening today? Who's getting fired? And so I kind of have to change that reputation, right? I want to be seen as somebody who has a positive presence, but I also want to make sure that people aren't running from me. So, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate your input. I thank you guys today for your time, your energy, your participation. I hope that you were able to take away some nuggets from today. This was absolutely valuable for me. And I wish you guys the best of luck as you continue to pursue your educational endeavors.
Thank you so much, Qiara, for joining us today. We appreciate your expertise. We know it over 20 years in your field, and you've learned so much, especially in human resources. So I will be inviting you back. Don't you worry.
Absolutely.
My students are, like I told you, this is a work college. And so a big part of that is that students work and have corporate jobs while they work through their studies. And that's a unique perspective. For a lot of us, we learned some work skills while we were, in school, but the hunk of them we learned after graduation and as we worked. So I appreciate you for giving them a leg up today on things that they can use based on your experience. We appreciate you. Thank y'all for tuning in today. You can come every Wednesday. We're here for a writing workshop with fabulous people from different industries sharing with us awesome skills for reading and writing and speaking in the workplace and in our studies. So thank y'all so much for coming. And